Hey guys, I got back from work a long time ago, and I've already filmed this video, but it didn't turn out well, and I'm filming it again. I am tired and I'm having upset stomach, but let me try to make this video real quick. So this commenter basically commented the comment above on a video where I forgot what the video was about, but he commented this. But this was after a few exchanges. Let me explain what the exchanges were like. So he started off by saying this, and then proceeded to say this. And then I responded to this by saying this, and then he proceeded to say this. So I'm gonna kind of respond to each part of his comment, or all of the comments that he made, and then proceed to kind of go more in depth. So one of your main points is that you're upset with me because I say that God created evil, and then you proceed to tell me to go read a Bible. I just want to start off by saying I don't pull this stuff out of my butt, okay? Whenever I argue against Christianity, and most atheists do this, actually, if not all atheists basically do this. We take quotes from the Bible to show you how the Bible is flawed. We use the Bible to make the argument that the Bible is flawed and the God that you worship is immoral, he's not a good father, he doesn't have any value for human life, and he does as he pleases without any consequences, and he's just a very immoral and not a loving God. I've said this numerous times, but my position as an atheist is I'm open-minded. If Christians can justify God's actions and explain why Christianity makes logical sense and is very probable to be true, I'm open to becoming a Christian. But I just don't think that Christianity is logical, and not only do I not accept any religious claims as an atheist, as an agnostic atheist, but I believe that if the Christian God does exist, he's not worthy of my praise, and he's a horribly immoral being that exists. Again, let me reiterate, atheists, when we critique Christianity, we're just taking the material that you provide for us to critique your religion, and it doesn't make sense. We do an internal critique, and the Bible that we read, the Bible that we all read, that same Bible just doesn't make sense, and shows God to be horribly immoral. I believe that God did create evil, and I'm going to explain that to you in what I'm going to say. To address your other comments, I do know who God is because I read the Bible, and your God terrifies me. Your God is a terribly immoral being who wants us to worship him after he tortures us and puts us through things that we don't need to go through. He's the one who put these things in action, and they are causing problems for us, and he wants us to praise him in the midst of suffering due to the things that he created and caused. I'm not assuming things to be true. I'm not making any assumptions. To address your other claims that you wrote in your comments, I'm taking the material that you're giving me, and it's not working. Christianity doesn't make sense, and your God is not a God that's worthy of not even just my worship, any worship. I would say that there are human beings with better moralities than God. And I can justify any of this. I can literally pull quotes from the Bible and justify any of this. We can talk about this anytime. We can debate about this anytime. I'm not that good of a debater. I'm working on my debating skills, but you're welcome to come on my lives, and we can talk and debate about this anytime. I can justify any of the claims that I'm making here. But let me just focus on the main thing. God does not create evil. So I've already made a video explaining how God and how the Bible even claims that God is all-knowing. God knows what's going to happen in the future. So when he creates something that goes on to cause great pain, suffering, or turn human beings away from him and cause them to worship other gods, which he ends up taking their life for or punishing them for, God can see all of this before it happens. God, therefore, in my opinion, is responsible for the creations that he creates that go on to cause harm in the world. Sorry for the background noise, my family is making noise. In regard to what I previously said, I would say that God created Lucifer, who would eventually turn his people against him, which would eventually be the reason that God ends up punishing his people in very intense and over punishing, very cruel ways. because of the already established facts, not by me, but by the Bible, that God is all-knowing and can see the future. He knows what Satan is going to do and still continues to create him, hence creating evil in the world. He created something that would eventually go on to be evil. Now, let me justify this with Bible quotes. Let me not even just make claims here. Let me legitimately show you how the Bible even substantiates this point. All you have to do is go to Google and search, did God create Lucifer? And literally just click on the first link, which says, did God create Satan? Upon clicking that first link, you're going to get this article, right? Did God create Satan? And it gives you 2 Bible verses in the first paragraph. And it even reads, God is the father of all creation, from all things in the physical realm to all things in the spiritual realm. This includes Satan, also known as Lucifer, who was created to serve God as an angel in heaven. God created all of these things, but let's look into the Bible verses. When you type on the hyperlinked Bible verses, John chapter 1, verse 3, this is the New International Version, but it takes you to this, right? And it reads, through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. This makes God responsible for creating Lucifer, for creating the snake that tempted Adam and Eve to eat from, guess what? The tree of the knowledge of good and evil that he also made, that he didn't want Adam and Eve to eat. He creates all of the problems that happen in the world. Not only that, if God creates all things, and all things come through him, and he's the one that creates all things in heaven and also in this physical world that we live in, we can blame God for Schmittler, Genghis Khan, and some of the worst people who have committed the worst crimes that exist in this world. God is responsible for them eventually being created. And he also has foreknowledge of what they were going to do, and he allows it all to play out. He allows all this suffering to happen, and he doesn't interfere. But let's not only read John chapter 1, verse 3, let's also look at Colossians chapter 1, verse 15 through 17. This is Colossians. Sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. I need to go look up the proper pronunciation, but let's read what it says. The Son is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. Whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. If God created all things, God is responsible for parasites in Africa that take away eyesight from children, and that's their only purpose. God is responsible for mosquitoes that spread the Zika virus. God is responsible for bears that sometimes maul human beings. God is responsible for the loads of human beings that go on to commit terrible acts of violence and other atrocities in this world. God created all of creation, the good and the bad. Give him his praise when it comes to the good things that he's created, but he also created the bad things with foreknowledge that they were going to be bad, and he still allowed it to play out. I see this God as a cruel, immoral God, and a God that did create evil. And I didn't just pull this out of nowhere. I used your Bible, your material, to showcase this to you. It's your ideology that's flawed and illogical.